what is our brain? What does it do? And how do we develop a relationship with it? Because I feel that people are very confused with what is the brain, what is the mind, what does it do, what does it not do? I think there's a lot of stuff out there. How would you describe it?
Well, it's very clear to me after all the scans I've done that your brain, the physical functioning of your brain, the moment by moment physical functioning of your brain creates your mind. And if your brain's not right, your mind's not right. And there are a lot of spiritual teachers that'll separate the mind from the brain, but you can't, because just think of Alzheimer's disease, very damaged brains, and they're very damaged minds that go, people that act in ways they'd never act if their brain was healthy, that they don't remember people that they're deeply in love with. And so if we want a healthy mind, it actually starts with a healthy brain. And, I've had the blessing or the curse to scan over 1,000 convicted felons and over 100 murderers, and their brains are very damaged. So if your behavior is so bad, you end up in a cage. And they're not thinking, I have to understand, evaluate, rehabilitate that person's brain, and then they act better. And that helps all of us. Dostoevsky once said, you can tell about the soul of a society, not by how it treats its outstanding citizens, but by how it treats its criminals. And it's, when I first started scanning people, I didn't really have an opinion on the death penalty. I just really hadn't thought about it. I thought of free will as black or white. You have it or you don't. And then as my work became known, defense attorneys would send me people who did really bad things, and their brains were so damaged. And when I would go to court, and a lot of people hated me for that, if you have a bad brain and you did something terrible, you don't get to go home. But should you kill them? It's a really important question. And I'm like, no, it's not the sign of an evolved society to kill sick people. You have to protect society from them. But what I've seen is if we rehabilitate their brain, they can have a meaningful life. And people just aren't connecting. It's your brain. It's easy to call people bad. It's harder to go, why? And, can I fix it?
What are the things that damage our brains? Because I think what we find is we often think like, that person was totally normal, and then one day they just changed. Or we say things like, if you just met them, like they were just quiet and calm, like you would never have noticed anything, and then they did this horrific thing. Like, what are those habits? What are those patterns that start damaging our brain? Because I don't think we're aware. As you said, we never see our brain. We don't really talk about it. We don't really know much about it. What are the things we do since birth that damage our brains that could lead to something as extreme as that?
Well, even before birth.
Yes.
So since marijuana has been legalized in many states, babies born with marijuana in their bodies has gone up 1,700%. It's a ridiculous amount. So even before you're born, what happens in utero can damage the trajectory of your life. They have more behavior problems. They have more attention problems. They have less empathy for other people. And then, as you go through life, the standard American diet is damaging brains. You talked about how healthy your diet has been. I follow this guy on TikTok. For some reason, my TikToks has gone crazy. And he looked at his blood sugar before and after Pop-Tarts. And Pop-Tarts was like the worst thing he looked at, almost worse than Coca-Cola. Wow. But what are we feeding children? In public school free lunches, Pop-Tarts, which means we're damaging their blood sugar levels we're damaging their weight and we're damaging their brain. And I have a mnemonic called Bright Minds, which helps me remember, like B is for blood flow, low blood flow, number one brain imaging predictor of Alzheimer's disease. So Netflix, right? Not in front of the TV too often, not exercising, that damages your brain. Probably the number one thing that causes brain trouble. Your brain is soft about the consistency of soft butter. Your skull is really hard and has sharp bony ridges. Mild traumatic brain injuries ruin people's lives. If you said, hey, Daniel, single most important thing from 210,000 scans, mild traumatic brain injuries. Don't let your kids. Physical, right? From snowboarding, falling off a horse, football, soccer, hockey.
Physical abuse too, I guess. Domestic violence.
Physical abuse will do it. Falls, car accidents. And people are texting and driving and texting and walking. And there's 3 million new concussions every year in the United States, which means over the last 30 years, there have been 90 million people that have had concussions. It's very common and a common cause of depression, homelessness, addiction, suicide, panic attacks, ADHD.
Wow.